And so when I think about my crypto investments, cryptocurrencies are a global phenomenon. They are not really governed by border. They're governed by regulators and policymakers. And so you really want to keep going to these regions and finding out what direction the policy is going to go. And I think, like Canada and Switzerland and Germany, they're very advanced in the UAE. And so I'm extremely interested in making more investments there. And I spent a fair amount of time there, a total of 10 days. And I see it as a place, it's sort of the Switzerland of the Middle East. It's where you want to set up your operations and where you want to service that part of the world, which is growing very, very quickly. So I'm interested in working with Turkish citizens, Egyptians, Moroccan, Iranians, Iraqis, and you can do that out of Abu Dhabi. I look at crypto not as coins or tokens. I look at it all as software. It's productivity software. The projects that are going to last and be here, a decade away from now, are ones that actually solve problems. So let's give an example. I'm an investor in Polygon. I'm a very fortunate guy. I'm able to call up the leaders of these projects and these teams, and they return my call, and I ask to meet them anywhere in the world. In this case, we met in Dubai with the Polygon team. I'm an investor in software engineers. I always have been. I've been in the software industry for 20 years. They're very, very strong. And their mandate, what they decided to do, is to try and reduce the cost by sitting on top of Ethereum and aggregating transactions. So the gas fees are a fraction of what they would be if you're doing them one at a time. I thought that was a brilliant strategy, and I made an investment in Polygon. The same with Solana, the same with Ethereum, the same with, HBAR. All of these are software, and they all have different attributes. If you're investing in, for example, in Google or in Microsoft, what are you investing in? You're investing in software. Why wouldn't you invest in crypto? It's software too. And in the case of crypto, just take, for example, Circle and USDC. USDC takes a lot of pressure and reduces fees in all kinds of different ways. And in the case of staking, gives you some kind of yield against inflation. So all of this to me is just software engineering, and I have a broad portfolio. I'm very familiar with the engineers involved in each of these projects. I support them. I'm an advocate for it. And the regulator is in my view, going to eventually support these initiatives because of the tremendous economic enhancement and productivity they provide for the underlying economy. And as far as the U.S. regulator is concerned, they have the opportunity to lead the globe in policy, whether it be stablecoin, whether it be Bitcoin, whatever it's going to be. And I don't think they want to give up that opportunity. They just want to get it right. And those of us that are waiting for their decisions are very optimistic, because you can look at this two ways. You can say, okay, the regulators are getting in the way of growth. That's one way to look at it. I don't look at it that way. I look at it saying, when the U.S. regulator makes its policy, the floodgates of institutional and sovereign wealth are going to pour into these crypto assets. And I want to be well positioned before that happens. I don't know when it's going to occur. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I'm very optimistic that they will take the lead and provide policy for global regulators. That's what I believe. I remember that video. And Pomp plays it every time I go on his show. The point was, at that time, the regulator was very non-constructive on cryptocurrencies. And we were discussing this in a highly regulated environment. But anyways, look, I've changed my mind. You're absolutely right. I'm a huge advocate and a supporter, and most importantly, an investor. In individual tokens and coins and chains, I've got 33 different positions, wide range of diversity. I look at this the same way I look at managing an equity portfolio. Never more than 5% in any one name, never more than 20% in any one sector. So in that theory, that mandate means that I can go up to 20% in crypto. Right now, I'm just over 10, about 10.7. But I've also made equity bets. For example, I have an investment in WonderFi, a Canadian company that is democratizing DeFi. So they're launching their product in January. They've been working on it for over 2 years. One of the biggest challenges for the individual, like my daughter or my son, who want to do staking and remain compliant with tax authorities, depending on what jurisdiction they're in, is it's very complicated to actually do it. If you have $14,000 in your bank account and you decide that you'd like to stake some of it, WonderFi is working very hard to make that very easy to do. And that's one of my investments, because I think cryptocurrencies are not just for the crypto elite. There's a huge demand within the population to solve for the fact that interest rates are so low. So just on staking alone, that's a huge opportunity. Number two, I became an investor in Immutable Holdings, which is Jordan Freed's company. Why? Because specifically he owns the domain NFT.com. Now, normally I would not put a lot of weight on a domain, except in the case of NFT.com. There's so many S&P 500 companies that have NFT strategies that want the domain NFT.com / fill in your corporate name. So he's going to be curating that. I'm an investor in that as well. And yes, I own individual NFTs. I think, for example, I'm a big believer that NFTs, which are basically digital wallets of information, are going to be very big in the physical asset world. One specifically that I'm part of the advanced thinking on, if you want to call it that, I'm funding a white paper on it right now, is for the watch industry. The watch industry, as you may know, is one of the fastest growing asset classes in the world right now, multi-billion-dollar secondary market in trading fine timepieces. And we don't have any NFTs for authentication and insurance purposes. We want that, and so does the watch industry. So the idea would be, if you take a high resolution scan of the dial, you can identify that watch in perpetuity, and you could avoid fraudulent trading of a piece that was made to knock it off. And that's of great interest to all the great watchmakers. Just my collection alone, I want to do that on. So the whole point is there's so much activity on NFTs, and yes, I'm an investor there. The whole concept here, everything we've just talked about, is all software. I keep going back to that. I look for the best teams, I invest in their companies, I invest in their tokens, their coins, their currencies, but it's all just software. Yes, I have a position in Bitcoin. It is not my largest. It is close, it's up in the top quartile though. Ethereum is larger than Bitcoin right now for me. I am a huge advocate for Bitcoin. I treat it as an asset, no different than a AAA office tower in Boston. It's an asset. I don't consider it a currency. Now, everybody has their own opinion. My opinion is it's an asset. So I hold it. I don't trade it. I do stake it. But the point is, I'm not selling my Bitcoin. The challenge I have with Bitcoin, and the whole industry has this challenge, is we've got to deal with these ESG issues. There's a lot of criticism around Bitcoin because of the amount of energy it takes to get a coin awarded. And in that area, I'm working very hard. There's lots of initiatives to create Bitcoin. And I'm not saying we're bifurcating the Bitcoin market, that one coin's different than the other. But if I'm a sovereign institution, and I work with lots of sovereign institutions because I'm in the indexing business, they would like to fund Bitcoin mining where they keep their own awarded coins, knowing with 100% certainty that they mine them in an ethical and efficient, sustainable manner.